Hi again, this is Don, Calendar Studies, Series 2 on YouTube. This next segment is going to be on the Priestley document as recorded by Felipe Galame on Academia slash edu for education. I've done a little research on this since I haven't, I originally came upon this title, Land and Calendar, the Priestley document, in a book by Gary Rendsburg called The Redaction of Genesis. So it's been a while since I read that, so I had to look up some of these things on Academia. There's this thing called the Holiness Code, and it has something to do with the Jubilee year. It was supposed to be like, it goes along with the Day of Atonement, where kind of like starting over again. You repent and, forgiveness, all that stuff, whatever's involved in that. So that has something to do with this calendar. The purpose is somehow wrapped up in that other. So you can go on Academia and read about that. There's some different files. The author of the Holiness Code is one. The Jubilee year and the return of cause. The end of the title is cut off here, so I don't know what that's saying. Cosme something. Of the cosmic something. So there are quite a few files. How the Priestly Sabbaths work, Hebrew Bible chronology, the first 2450 Sabbaths, I suppose that is. Compositional strata in the priestly Sab. So I think that stands for sabbatical calendar, because that's basically what we're talking about here. It's a 7-day week calendar with 364 days in a year. So you have 52 Sabbaths. But of course, there's always exceptions to the rule. At some point, it was decided that Passover was also a Sabbath. So you might have, unless Passover falls on the same day as the Sabbath, there would actually be 2 Sabbaths in a year, in that week. So there would be 53 Sabbaths, and there might be other exceptions. So trying to get the exact count of Sabbaths in a calendar is probably not going to be too fruitful. But unless you study these things, you're not going to totally know that. So you'd be more gullible to saying, "Oh, okay, that's a good idea." This is why I'm asking the question: is change good? So if your motive is to keep track of Sabbaths, this is a very good calendar. But does it do the job? That's the next question. If you have an understanding of Sabbaths, then maybe it isn't totally practical. So anyways, I made a little chart here or whatever. In the first 6 years, the cycle of 28 years, in the first 6 years, you have 364 days, and then in the 7th year, you add an extra week. So there's 371 days in that year. And you do that for four times, so that equals 28 years. And the total number of days is 364 times 28, which is 10,192 days. Plus you add on those extra weeks. At the end of 28 years, you also add another week. So that last 28th year would have 378 days. So the sum total is 10,227 days in 28 years. So that would average out to be 365 and a quarter days per year. So now I don't remember, for some reason Rendsburg was saying that the actual cycle is 175 years with kind of like a 7-year after, I think it was six cycles of 28 years. You have to add another 7 years to get 175 years. And then 4 of those cycles of 175 years equals 700. But as I recall, the time from when Abraham left Haran, when his father Terah died, from that point when Abraham was 75 until the setting up of the residence in the wilderness, which is also called the tabernacle, in Exodus, or maybe it's one of the other books of Moses, I can't remember. That was 660 years, so I'm not sure, how many. Well, I guess I did do the math here. It's 23 cycles plus, I think it was, 16 years. So 16 of 28, it's a little more than half of a cycle of 28 years. So I don't know how that all pertains to anything, but this is a different calendar system than was used in the earlier part of Genesis, which was the great year astronomical calendar. So I just wanted to show the contrast there. There's not one calendar. I don't believe that there's one calendar throughout Genesis. You're not going to be able to come up with a nice pat number of years and total it all up, because there is another period in between Abraham at 75 and the end of the flood, whatever. So there's different versions of Genesis in the Septuagint, the Greek Septuagint, and the Masoretic texts that we have in our modern day Bibles. So it seems like Paul and Josephus were all familiar with the Septuagint. The Masoretic hadn't come into being until 800, 900 AD when it was completed. So they're all using the Septuagint. It would appear so. When you read those earlier writings in the Bible or in history of Josephus, the histories of Josephus. So the problem is that when they completed the Masoretic translation or whatever, the earlier, whatever they were using, apparently it was destroyed because no earlier copies can be compared with the Masoretic to see, if they did it accurately. If you compare it to the Septuagint or some of the other versions of Genesis that are existent, they don't match up. The numbers. So you're kind of wondering what source did the Masoretics use? Well, it might have just been the years weren't matching up with the history that was supposed to represent, so they shortened years, and there's possibly some explanation that would explain why explain the differences, but that would be speculation. And for a calendar study, I'm not really going to focus on that. I'm just going to move on to the next part in the series, which is going to be my own calendar, the 1440 days calendar, and explain what that's all about. And you can see how all these different calendar systems are unique, different in themselves, and what purpose they're supposed to serve. What do they commemorate? What do they, who do they serve? Because that was a problem in biblical times, because like Jesus, if you read the Nazarene Gospel by Robert Graves, I'm trying to remember the full title of that. I think it's Revealed, the Nazarene Gospel Revealed. He shows how in the multiplying of the bread, loaves and fishes, that was talking about calendars. So here again, I'm not going to go into too much detail on that, because it's sort of it's not widely accepted by the church men, so they prefer the miracle over the. See, if you're looking for a code in the Bible that would explain things better, then people like Robert Graves have done a good job of explaining how Near Eastern culture, or even the related African culture, had different viewpoints than we have. And the Sadducees were in charge of the calendar. Now, if Jesus was promoting or proposing a new calendar, he would run into problems with that, because the Sadducees were the authority on that matter, and the only way you're going to be able to propose something like that is to do it with a code where only people in the know are going to know what you're talking about. So that's basically what's going on with the miracles of the loaves and fishes. If you pick up Graves' study, which he co-authored with another person, basically I was going to explain it a little bit more, but maybe I'll just let it go here. It's not that important, but it's well worth checking into if you have an interest in miracles and what's going on there. All right, take care.